Let's walk through a PowerApps example using photos in a gallery. No, I'm not gonna wear the sunglasses all the time, but as you're watching this, I am coming back from vacation. I'm recording this before I go to vacation, but you're watching it later, whatever, doesn't matter. And so what I wanted to do was go through the vacation theme. So I'm using last year's vacation photos to show you different examples of how to do things with galleries. So we're gonna talk about scrolling and images and popping up and changing backgrounds and just different dynamic things that you can do when you need to incorporate a bunch of images into your app. If that sounds like fun, then let's just switch over to my desktop and take a look. Okay, so first let's just demo some of the things we're going to talk about how they work. As you can see here in the background, what I've done is I've made the screen image a photo, but then down here I've got a gallery where we can scroll through different photos and find them. If we click on a photo, like let's go to this one here, we can then look at a larger size of that photo. And if we want to set that to be our background, we've got a lovely little button here that will change that to be our background. Over here on the left, we're going to talk a little bit about moving this up and down, because I found like when I was doing the photos, like they were in, I wanted it in different places at different times. So if we just click the little arrows, we can move everything up and down. We also have the ability, maybe these colors aren't working, right? Like when we're up here, like, hey, the white kind of blends in a little too much. So we can change the icon colors to black, green, or white. We'll talk about how that works. And then we can also just do a random background image if we want to be able to change those and have the screen choose, right? So we're going to talk about that. On this next screen, so when I showed this to some other people, they wanted to see two things. One, they wanted to see a slider for moving these up and down. So there you go. So we'll talk about how that works. That was a little trickier than you think because I inverted the slider, right? Like you notice like the top is the top and the bottom is the bottom, which is the opposite way a slider works. I had to do some funky math there. ChatGPT helped me, it worked out, but it makes for a nice PowerApps example as well. And then I also, let's pull this all the way top, had the ability, they wanted the ability to kind of shrink or resize the gallery on the fly. So we'll talk about how I did that. That one's a little bit simpler math, but same type of thing. So talk about how to control those. And then last but not least, on this third screen over here, instead of using a gallery, I decided to make the whole screen the gallery. And so here you can flip through all the different photos. And as you click through, right, it's just loading up those for you. Now, with this one, right, we're just changing the screen background with these arrows, but I did have to do a little bit of shenanigans using a little math again to handle, it being dynamic, right? Because what's happening is I'm loading all this out of a SharePoint document library. So whether there's one image in there or 100 images in there, this app works all the time without any issues or reconfiguration based on, right? So I kind of had to make all the math very dynamic. So that'll be kind of one of the things we talk about here with this example. Oh, and then also I'll show you up here. So you notice I just keep clicking this top corner and it keeps changing. So I'll show you how I did that as well. So let's switch over here and take a look. Take a look. I don't know, whatever I just said. Okay, so the primary screen here, I started with a gallery. And keep in mind, if you want to download this, you can just go to training.powerapps901.com. In my YouTube library or any of my subscriptions, you have the ability to download all the working apps. So you can pull this in, hook it up to your own document library, and boom, you'd be off and running. But so this is just a regular gallery, or it started as regular gallery, right? But instead of being a vertical gallery, it's a horizontal gallery. So I dropped in a horizontal gallery. And so then we just kind of started to play, right? The first thing I think is pretty neat is the whole moving up and down with these. So what we did here was I said, hey, gallery, your Y property, right? That's where it is up and down the screen. That is just a variable called var y. So when I click on this up arrow, it says if var y is greater than 45, set var y to var y minus 100. So the idea there is as we click to the top, we don't want to be able to go off the screen. And so we do that, right? So anytime you build these dynamic apps, like I had the first piece of this function I work in almost instantly, and it's going back and adding all these little gotchas to avoid little scenarios like that. They kind of jump in there, right? The down arrow is the same thing, but it's plus 100 and it stops at 525, so it doesn't go off the screen. So then we also here, you'll notice like that these were moving at the same time. And so like this one is just, its Y is also set to var Y. And then all these subsequent ones, their Ys are set to var Y plus the height of the control above them plus 15. So then that way I'm getting spacing between all of them. But once again, that just gave me the ability to kind of control what the experience was here along the way. So that's how those two work. We have the reload button. So what this is doing is setting var background. So that's the variable that I'm looking, if you look at the screen itself, its background image is set to var background. So when you click on this, it is just saying set var background to the link to my SharePoint site plus first shuffle vacation photos full path. So vacation photos is my SharePoint list. So it's shuffling those in there. And then whichever one is first after the shuffle is the full path. So that's how we're getting a pseudo random type of thing there. You'll also notice that like this was all set when we opened up the app. And that's because on app on start, we're doing the same thing. We're setting var background to that. So also you can see that the default var y is 545. That's why the image gallery started at the bottom. Next up there, we then have this whole idea of changing the icon color. And all I'm doing here is using a switch. So it says, hey, if our icon color is black, make it green. If it's green, make it white. If it's white, make it black. So you could add more colors. You could change the colors, right? Like I want to do something like this. It was just easy for you guys to quickly update and change this. But now if we press that, right, we get black, green, white, black. And then of course, back on app on start, we just want to decide to default to white. It'd be really cool if we could have a way to say, hey, look at the image and find the opposite color. But as far as I know, that's impossible. So I've never been able to do that. So I always start with either white or black, just depending on my things. I assume vacation photos are gonna be bright, so I went with white as the default. So that's how this particular screen works though, right? Like it's nothing to, oh, you know, the other thing I didn't do? So the other thing here, like if we click on the image of Buddy swimming or jumping there, so then here, when we clicked on that image, I guess let's talk about that first. All we did there is we said on select in the gallery, set var pop up to true. So that is then what shows the pieces, right? So let's click on again, right? And so then that is just showing this image large, this icon close, and this icon here, right? Which it looks a little funky in red, but it is what it is, right? And so here, this icon, it just sets the var pop up back to false. That would make this go away. And then this one here is setting var background. Now notice this time I did this a little different just so you could see another way of doing it. So gal images, right? That's the image gallery here. Selected, that's the image we clicked on, Buddy jumping. So link to item. So if you use link to item, that is the full path to the file, right? Remember here on app on start, we used full path and then we use PA, right? So it's weird that full path is actually not the full path. Full path, if we highlight it, we can see here, is really just starts at the document library, vacation photos, and then the file name. Whereas when you do link to item, it returns the whole thing. So I could switch this one out to use link to item, right? Like it wouldn't have made any difference. All I was trying to do was, kind of show you guys different ways, right? If we go here, we would then just say, hey, instead of using full path, we'd say use link to item. And if we rerun app on start, right, we get a new photo. So that's how that one works. And so that's all this is doing, is it's setting that to that, and then var pop up to false, right? Once again, I just like to show you multiple ways. So the idea there was I just want to make it easy as pie to, switch the image and then go away. So that's how this screen works. Oh, one more thing on the gallery. I keep remembering one more thing. I did so many little things. Here on the gallery, you notice that there's no scroll bar. So I set show scroll bar to false. That's why you don't see the gray bar at the bottom. And then I did show navigation to true. And that's why, do you see this little gray box over here? Right, that's the show navigation. And that is what brings that over and then that over, right? And if you're wondering, right, some of you from my SharePoint days know that's my goofy friend Todd, as court ordered to take him on vacation with me, it's a thing. But yeah, that's Todd. If you're wondering why he's in the photos, he misses being here. So he says hi to all of you. Up here in the top right, remember I kept clicking this to switch screens. The way that works is there is a rectangle up here. I set its fill and its hover fill to be color.transparent. So it never shows up, but if you do manage to know that it's there on select, it is just navigating to the other screen, right? So sometimes you'll see people put things like this in there, like if they want to have a secret admin button, like I don't think this is not a good idea for an admin button, someone might accidentally click there, but you sometimes have this desire to have, secret spots. And so in this case, right, the mouse doesn't change. You have no idea there's something there, but if you click, because I know to click there, boop, we get taken to the next screen. On this next screen, so with this, what I want to understand, right? So I built screen with gallery, and then I showed this to the whole team here at PowerApps 901, and they had some other ideas and features. And so I wanted to go play. So all I did was duplicated this first screen. That's why it's got all these _1s. I can't stress this enough with you guys. Like when you're building apps and trying out things, like don't destroy this one. I used to have a bad habit. I would have tried all their ideas on this one, then kind of left in this Frankenstein sense, right? So anytime you want to experiment, duplicate the screen. Now I can go try those things that they want to see. And if I break it, I'll delete the screen and duplicate it again, right? Like I do the same type of thing like when I'm messing with like the video thumbnails, I will make one and I'll start tweaking that one. No, right? Duplicate and then tweak. So that way I've got the old one. So just another thing you want to do, especially when you're building these PowerApps examples, you've just got that. So in this one, we've got, the same type of thing, right? We got that same gallery. I got rid of all the fancy buttons over here. This one does still do, I think, the same. Yep, all that still works. Oh, I didn't add the little close there, but there you go, close. So with this one, let's talk about the easier of the two first. So I want to be able to resize the gallery, right? And so the way that we do that, all right, this is just a normal slider. It is set with a min of 1 and a max of 5. And then you just take the layout and you change that to vertical. That's how you make it up and down. But unfortunately, 5 is at the top and 1 is at the bottom. And so that's going to be a problem in a second. Not for this one though. So then I said, okay, I've got my gal images. And so here what I wanted to do is I wanted to adjust a few things. One is I want to adjust the template size. So in a horizontal gallery, the template size is the width. And so I want to take 50 times the number. So that's what's going to let me control the width of each of the panels, right? Okay. What I don't want to do is when I shrink it down here real small, like when I first did this, I had a bunch of giant spaces because the width wasn't being updated. So I needed to change the width. And so we're doing that with that formula right there. Then inside of here, I also said, all right, well, I want to take the gallery's height, right? So this is the gallery still, we go here to the height. And so that is also just slider 1 value times 50, right? So the gallery can be anywhere from 50 tall to 250. And you can see, I want to keep that square ratio. That's why they're both, 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, right? So you want to keep that square ratio because that's what looks best for my images anyway. Okay, so that's keeping those two, and that's what's making the gallery change. And then for the image inside the gallery, you can see that the width is the parent template width, right? That's that number by 50 that we said a minute ago, minus 10. I want it to be, basically I want that 10, I want 5 space on each side, right? So it kind of centers itself there. And then if we go here to, oh, not there. If we go here to height, it's the same thing. Take the parent height minus 15. And so that was kind of gave me that, right? I probably should have made that 5 or 10 as well. I don't know why I did 15. Who knows? You get the idea. Making all of this dynamic. Like this is a lot of like the way you build a responsive Power App, making all the things, doing calculations based on known sizes and stuff. Okay, so that's all it took though to make these things responsive, right? Made sure all the images were set to fit. So in this case, right, by setting them to fit, that's what makes this, vertical image show up. If I change these to fill, then they show up, but then you don't get as much of the tall images, right? Or, and there's different ones here. There's center, that's zooming in on the whole picture. Stretch, kind of trying to fill the space and people look distorted. So play with these, find the one that works the best for you. But for me, I found that fit worked the best in this scenario, but on the whole screen itself, I'm actually using fill because if they chose this tall picture of me and Nicola, right? I wanted it to fill up the whole screen. Now it probably doesn't look exactly right, but in my head, right, that's better than if I change the whole screen to be fit, then you get the big borders on the side. And so I probably would have needed to make like a color here or something. I don't know. But you do what you want. I just want you to see what your options are. Let's go back to this one real quick. Set that back. And then we got to change this back to fill so it looks right. So the other thing that we want to do here though, this is where, all right, we had the ability to slide this up and down. I struggled with this one for a hot minute. So, right, this is just a normal slider. It is the same thing. It is set from 0 to 10, or 1 to 10, 1 to 10. And what I did there, so it's 1 to 10. And then of course I also changed the layout to vertical as well. But right, remember 10's at the top, 1's at the bottom. Oh, I also changed the rail fill. Hard for me to say. I changed that and the value fill to both be white. If you don't, then it kind of has a blue, like it knows where they're at. I felt like that was awkward. Up to you. Now that I've changed that though, here's the crazy one, right? So this is the hardest thing in here. If we go to the gallery and we look at its Y property, ready for this? This is bringing back to math class. I needed it to be 50, right? Because remember, 50 is the top number I want it to be, plus 550 minus 50, right? Which is, 500. I don't know why that just doesn't say 500. I'll probably just change this to 500, make that less confusing. Get rid of the parentheses there. But then we want to take 500 times 10 times, or 10 minus the slider value. So when it's 10 minus 10, right, then that's 1. And then 10 minus 10, that's 0. 0 divided by 9 is 0. 0 times 500 is 0, is 50. That's why it's at the top. But when it's 1, right, so 10 minus 1 is 9. 9 divided by 9 is 1. 1 times 500, 550. So that's why the 1 puts at the bottom. If we take the middle number 5, I know I'm explaining math, but I'm going to do it anyway. We take 10 minus 5, that'd be 5. 5 divided by 9 is whatever that number is, right? Let's just call it half, or it's 0.45, right? And so you're basically getting half of this, so 250, so it's roughly 300. So that's why, Control Z, if I start dragging things around, that messes things up. Uh-oh, I messed up the formula by accidentally dragging. See what happens when I start talking? And of course, undo does not seem to want to work for me. So what was it? It was, there we go. Okay, so there's the formula that I think we had a minute ago. Let's test it out again. There we go. Now we can move it, right? So, because it's at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that is the way that works, right? That was the hardest thing I did here. Clearly, I even screwed up the demo. But writing those type of math formulas, if you struggle with those, use ChatGPT. Right? I did. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to show you real quick. Right? I basically said, hey, ChatGPT, that's what I want to do, right? I kind of laid out the scenario, and then it painted the picture and wrote the formula for me. I think I ended up, messing around a little bit. And like I said, I got rid of this 5 minus 5 or 500 minus 50. Yeah, I kind of changed its formula a little bit, but that worked, right? So use ChatGPT when you're trying to do weird things like that. Like I just explained what I wanted and it understood. And now we have a lovely little boop, 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 right? I'll stop making sound effects, but you get the idea. And then the last screen here, this one is pretty easy. So what we did here is I'm just using the screen's background image, right? So if we go here to the background image, it is that variable again. And so then here, when we click on this little critter, all it's doing is saying, hey, on select, set var image number to mod var image number -1, gal items count -1. You're like, what? Okay, so var image number, so that's just a number we're gonna have that's gonna go from 1 to the number of images in the gallery, right? And we're getting that with all items count. So in our case, we have like roughly 12, let's see, how many do we have? We have 13 images. So we have 13 images, right? So we're going to want to go from 1 to 13, right? That's the idea. So if you click this one, we're going to subtract, right? 1, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, blah, blah, blah. And this one would count up, right? But we got to be able to handle the edges, right? Counting up and down is easy in the middle. The edges is a little tougher. So this says set that to that. So let's say right now the image number is 1. And we're going to say take 1 minus 1. And then we're going to use mod. Mod takes a number and divides it by a number you gave it. So in our case, it'd be 13 minus 1, so 12. So 0 minus or divided by 12 is going to be what? 0. So that's going to return 0. Then what we said is, hey, if var image number equals 0, which it does in this case, then just set it to the last item in the gallery, right? Var image number, gal items count. The reason for this is because mod, right, when you get the 13 and 13, it's always going to return a 0. So you're always going to have that problem come up. But the other reason for this is that the way we're seeing this, we're saying set var background image index of our gallery, all items, var image number. There is no item index 0, right? So in a gallery, when you have 13 items, it automatically knows the first row is 1, second row is 2, 3, 4, etc. So, but if you say index all items and 0, it'll say, doesn't exist, right? So it would break. So that's why you've got to be smart about this. But if we throw a label on here, right, you're going to be able to see this down here, right? If we just set this to be var image number, so right now it's 1. So if we press the thing, right, 2, 3, 4, you're shocked. I know I'm going to go real fast here. So we get to 12, there's 13. And so then when we go to 13, right, it would naturally go to 14 if it wasn't for our crazy formula. But so because of our math, right, it then just jumps back to 1 and we just start counting through these again. This is another example. This is math that I wrote. I really like the mod function, right? And all the left arrow does is -1. The right arrow does the same exact thing, except for +1. And remember, you can download the whole working app over at training.poweraapps911.com. Hint, hint. But so there is the idea, right? But we didn't have a gallery here. We just used the screen because sometimes you guys are just like, hey, I just want to show really big images. Well, the biggest image you can show is like that, right? And then of course you could play once again with the whole, fit or fill or center or whatever you want. So there you go. There is our app, right? Nice little PowerApps example using pictures and galleries, right? This is the type of stuff like you don't think about. There's a bunch of dynamic stuff. I hoped you watched because there was lots of little things, but I know people don't watch videos like this. It's okay. I'm coming back from vacation. I'll be so happy if no one watches it. It's okay. If you are happy you watched it, hit the like button. I appreciate that. And of course, if we can help you with any of this, remember, PowerApps 911, right? We've got 20, 30 people these days here to help you with all your consulting needs, whether it's a 30-minute break fix thing or a whole project. We've got training classes, public classes, private classes. We do stuff for the government. We do stuff for small companies, big companies, you name it, we can help. All right, that's enough of the commercial. With that, I'm going to say thanks and have a great day.